Israeli missiles striking near the heart of Beirut in the latest attack since the 2006 war between Israel and Lebanon. Multiple explosions heard as an Israeli airstrike hit the center of the capital. The death toll from that strike now at 9, according to Lebanon's health ministry. A resident tells CNN a Hezbollah-affiliated health authority office was hit. Right now, Israel is weighing its next move, of course, against Iran in retaliation for Tuesday's ballistic missile attack by Tehran. Israel's ambassador to the UN vowing a strong, painful response soon, even as President Biden is urging restraint.
We can support an attack on Iran's nuclear sites by Israel.
The answer is no. They have a right to respond, but they should respond enforcefully.
We have CNN coverage across the region. CNN's Nick Robertson is in Tel Aviv, Israel, and Jomana Karache joins us from Beirut. Jomana, to you first. What do we know about this latest explosion? It was massive, it was powerful, and in the heart of Beirut.
Well, you know, Sarah, it was a long and terrifying night for the people of Beirut last night. We were here on the roof and we could see those airstrikes and the strikes continuing all night. It started at about midnight with airstrikes hitting the southern suburbs of Beirut. Behind me, you could still see some of the smoke rising behind over my shoulder there. And this is where we have seen the Israeli strikes focused in recent weeks. The southern suburbs that is really Hezbollah's seat of power, and the IDF saying it is going after Hezbollah targets there. But then what we saw later on in the evening was this big strike in the heart of Beirut. And it came with no warning, Sarah. We did not hear from the IDF the usual warnings for civilians to leave the area. It was targeting, it appears, a Hezbollah-affiliated health authority in the heart of Beirut. At least 9 people were killed, 7 of them medics, according to that health authority. But this happening in the middle of the city, in the middle of the night, something that people here haven't seen since the 2006 war, and even then that was rare, has really added to that sense of anxiety and apprehension and fear here. We were out on the streets of Beirut speaking to people near the American University of Beirut. This is considered a safe area, and people say they no longer feel safe. They feel that these strikes are getting closer and closer. Sarah?
Yeah, the residents have been through so much there in Beirut long before this started happening, and now this rattling them in ways we cannot imagine. Thank you, Jomana. Let's go to Nick now. Nick, Israel's cabinet is still deciding how to respond to Tuesday's missile attack by Iran. What is it that they are considering at this point?
Yeah, a strong, painful response is, as you quoted there, from Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, and he said what we've heard from the Prime Minister and the Defense Minister, that Israel has the ability to reach targets wherever it wants to in the Middle East, and those targets could range from a maximum, if you will, Iran's nuclear facilities where it processes and enriches uranium. Israel has long said that this is part of Iran's plan to make a nuclear weapon. Iran denies it, but those sites are ones that Israel has wanted to hit for a long time and has held back because the United States has worked has worked sort of a diplomatic channel on that, and are clearly under pressure not to target them now. The economic interests of Iran, like the oil exports, that might be a more readily and easily manageable target because some of those oil facilities are sort of on the border with Iran, right on the sea and the Gulf, and are therefore relatively safer targets to hit. The extent isn't clear, but Israel wants to maintain its deterrence, which means sending a signal that Iran can understand that Iran should cease and desist not only targeting Israel directly, but supporting its proxies both in the south, in Gaza, and in the north in Lebanon, and the Yemenis, of course, who fired drones at Tel Aviv last night that were intercepted. So it's going to be a strong message. Precisely the targets, no hints at the moment of the past couple of days.
Nick Robertson, thank you to you and to Jomana Karache there in Beirut. Appreciate it. John?
All right, with us now, Joel Rubin, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Legislative Affairs in the Obama administration. Thank you so much for being with us. You just heard Aaron reporting from northern Israel that folks there think they are poised for victory over Hezbollah. How weakened do you think Hezbollah is right now?
Yeah, John, it's great to be with you, and I think Aaron is spot on. These are heady days in Israel, and the Israelis do feel like what has taken place over the last several weeks, where they executed the Patriot attacks and followed that on with the killing of Hassan Nasrallah, and now there are reports that at least half of the arsenal that Hezbollah had of rockets that they have pointed at Israel has been decimated. I think the Israelis feel like this is the moment to strike. And that's why the real question now is, are they going to work to finish the job in Hezbollah? How aggressive will they be versus how much momentum will they have to then move towards Iran in a response? And I do think that for Israelis, getting the north repopulated is a very high priority to show that terrorist groups cannot shrink Israel's borders, Israel's territory by these attacks. And I think that's where we're probably going to head in the near days.
So part of the answer to the question of how weak is Hezbollah now depends on the response to this next question, which how weak do you think Iran, how weakened do you think Iran is right now?
Well, look, getting to this question of weakness, Hezbollah is weaker now than it has been in decades. That does not mean it's eliminated. And so the challenge here is that Hezbollah has been backed by Iran for decades, supported by Iran. And the Iranian response just over the last couple of days, in many ways, was trying to show that it still does support Hezbollah while Hezbollah gets decimated on the battlefield. So this calibration of an Israeli response towards Iran also will have an eye on Hezbollah, on trying to deter any resupply, any restocking of Hezbollah, not allowing Iran to continue to try to build up Hezbollah as it has been built up over the last decades. And so I think for Israel strategically, they're going to have to really make targeting choices that provide that kind of strong security that they can get from battlefield activity on the ground Hezbollah, to not allow Hezbollah to return to the form that it's been over the last decades.
And look, the calculations, my impression is the calculations have completely changed over the last 3 weeks. And you always throw around terms like, fears of a wider war. But what is a wider war at this point? If Hezbollah, if their power is smashed, if Hamas, if their power is smashed, if Iran is somewhat weakened, what does Israel have to fear from Iran? Strikes more powerful than the ones they attempted the other day?
Yeah, John, you're spot on. Look, all the taboos have been broken. These questions that were sort of lingering for the past years about the danger of a regional war. Well, we've now seen Iran strike Israel twice. We've seen multiple organizations backed by Iran striking Israel repetitively since Hamas launched and started this war on October 7th. Hezbollah joined in, the Houthis joined in, now Iran has joined in, and Israel is still standing. And so from the Israeli perspective, they're saying this is the moment to strike. And, these taboos, now they're broken, and we see what's happening, and we can take it. And I think that's, of course, very risky and very dangerous, because one always gets concerned about an overreaction that could potentially destabilize the region significantly further. But that said, the taboos have been broken. Israelis see what the response is like, and they see that they can move on Hezbollah, and that they should do that to protect their north, because their north has been living under the gun, as Aaron pointed out, depopulating northern Israel in a manner that Israelis just cannot sustain any longer, and they do not want it. And that's why they're very supportive of these attacks on Hezbollah.
Now look, it might be risky, as you say, but it is important to understand the shift in mentality that has occurred over the last few weeks. Joel Rubin, thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, John.